I'm Jen Mall, and welcome to Nurse Connect. I am an RN and a board certified nurse coach. I believe that connecting with others is essential to living a happy and fulfilled life, and that sharing our stories not only helps us to heal ourselves, but also helps others by inspiring hope and optimism. I am so grateful to share stories of these incredible nurses on their journey, and I encourage you to find a way to share yours too. Thanks for listening in.
Let my girls out.
All right. Hello, hello. I'm going to let you introduce yourself and just tell me a little bit about you.
Hi, my name is Jennifer West, and I'm a registered nurse. I currently work in pediatrics, ambulatory care, doing triage and advice. I am also a mom of four and a wife, and I am an amputee since I just had my 4-year anniversary of my first amputation. So I've been through some things, been
Mm-hmm.
a patient, been a nurse. I prefer being the nurse, but I've kind of adapted my life over the years because you can only control so much, right? We only have so much control, and a lot of things we can't really control. But like I know you and I have had the conversation before. I can control like how I react to things, and I can control my actions, just not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily the path.
Yeah.
As much as I would love to plan everything, and I had everything figured out when I was, 21 and started my job with Sutter Health, and I'm 45 now, and I look back and I go, wow, I was
Wow.
so naive. It was ambitious and motivated, great, but also a lot of uh, you know, just being naive, just not knowing that
Yeah.
sometimes the path that we are thrown into is not necessarily the one we planned, but
Hmm.
we can make it work for us, right?
Absolutely. So, are you open to sharing a little bit about how your amputation occurred?
Yes, I am. I'll try to be as concise as possible, but I was working nights. My very first job as a new grad, and I noticed that I had some swelling after my shifts, and I, tried to rest a little, elevate my leg, ice. I did go to the doctor when I started getting pain, um, and he said, it sounds like classical torn meniscus. You could do physical therapy. And I
Hmm.
said, no, thanks. I'm a nurse and I do a lot of 12-hour shifts. I do enough physical activity, but maybe I'll just eat less salt and wear compression hose, and kind of did the things I knew how to do and
Yeah.
ignored the other things. No, thank you on the MRI. No, thank you on further appointments. No, thank you to PT, because I was like, I am a new nurse and I'm focused on work, 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 work.
Hmm.
So then fast forward to like late in my pregnancy, I was pregnant with my now 7-year old. And I was not only having swelling, but having a significant amount of pain. I
Hmm.
mean, I was really good at hiding it because
Hmm.
kind of sometimes that's what we do as nurses.
Hmm.
And so I wrapped it really tightly and, elevated it while I was charting on a garbage can below, and
Oh my
just
gosh.
didn't really say anything. I'm looking back on it. I remember driving with my left foot because at the end of like 12-hour shifts,
Hmm.
my leg was so swollen that I was
Mm.
afraid that I wouldn't have the control. So I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't.
Wow.
I drive with my left foot now, but I have a left foot gas pedal. So anyway, I had an MRI when my daughter was 2 weeks old, as soon as I could drive myself, and was referred to an orthopedist. And when I went to meet him, I was kind of looking forward to leaving the house. This was my third baby. It was pre-COVID. And so I brought her. I was like, oh, she's
Hmm.
really cute. I'm just going to bring her. And, I'll hopefully have this surgery during my maternity leave, so I don't have to miss very much work
Hmm.
because I didn't want to. And, then he kind of started talking about a mass in my calf
Mm.
and some growth on the inside of my knee and some tumors. And I mean, I even at one point
Mm.
was in such denial that I said, I think there are a lot of people with my name. It's very common. Why don't you try my middle initial or birth date? Because
Mm-hmm.
I have a torn meniscus. I don't have like
Mm-hmm.
tumors or anything. And he's like sat down, did the heart to heart, and this doesn't mean you have cancer, even though we're sending you to orthopedic oncology. I just think it's
Mm-hmm.
the best place for you to go to get a biopsy. And then, because sometimes they like to do surgery while they're doing the biopsy,
Okay.
depending on what they think it is. So that's kind of
Mm-hmm.
how it started. And then fast forward through, I had multiple um, surgeries and biopsies and manipulations under anesthesia. I
Mm.
even had a total knee replacement. At one time, I had my knee replacement removed, and I had a rod in my femur and a rod in my tibia with like a ball of cement kind of it,
Whoa.
holding on. And I had my tissue was so gone. I remember looking down and my daughter said, I think you're rainbow on the inside. You seem like a
Mm.
rainbow girl. And because
Mm.
she was seeing the blue of the cement in my knee. So it was just kind of funny. That was our life for a very long time. I
Mm-hmm.
couldn't walk, I couldn't drive, I couldn't work. I had treatment depending on the drive. It was anywhere from 3 to 5 hours away. So I did
Wow.
stay for several weeks with friends because I had chemo, I had a trial. I actually was in two chemotherapy trials. And then I had radiation for 18
Mm-hmm.
days. And then eventually, 3 years into my treatment, 4 years in, I had my leg amputated. And
Wow.
honestly, at that point, I was so relieved. I just was ready to move on with my life. I felt like I was at a
Mm-hmm.
standstill, and all of these people are moving forward. And, on one hand, I have this really great family, really great
Mm-hmm.
husband, and good support from friends and my sister and my parents and my kids even were so helpful. And on the other hand, I was like, I am a new nurse. I'm getting old. Like, I want to move on. I'd like to have more kids and I just want to move forward. And it was funny. I kept seeing this sign and it had Amy Purdy on it. And she's a double amputee and
Oh,
she's,
wow.
pro snowboarder. She was on Dancing with the Stars. And I read her book and I thought, she can do all of these amazing things. I can deal with having my leg amputated and walk and
Mm-hmm.
work again, drive again. Like I
Mm-hmm.
don't have, these huge, huge goals, but they're really simple and basic. And so that's kind of why I was relieved. And it was pretty interesting because during the whole process of being the patient and being off work and going through all of these things, I didn't share a whole lot, even though I'm open. I
Mm-hmm.
just didn't do a whole lot of posting. I did have a private page that I shared with some people. If they wanted to know about what I
Mm-hmm.
was going through and see the gross pictures that most people don't want to see, but they're really cool. I mean, the x-rays are fun, and the bowl of my tumors and gross things like
Oh,
that. But
wow.
yeah, it was gnarly, but I, nurses and doctors sometimes like that. So, but so yes, I was relieved, and everybody else, I remember thinking they feel sad for me, and like
Mm.
I feel hopeful. Like that was the point where I was like,
Wow.
I am hopeful and I am okay. And I think that a lot of my close family, they didn't want to like cry in front of me and show that
Mm-hmm.
they were so upset, but they also were worried because my affect was not what they expected.
Mm.
But I had to explain it to them like, you guys don't understand. Like being home and not able to walk to the restroom. I had a bedside commode for part of the time, or I'd have to like transfer so slowly and so painfully and, wheel in or crutch into the other room and,
Mm-hmm.
try not to fall and to go to the bathroom. And then it was uncomfortable. I'd have to prop my leg up or have somebody hold my leg, which is so
Wow.
embarrassing. It's not really, you
Yeah.
don't feel dignified, right? I mean,
Right.
although people, did the best that they could and to, turn around or help me, it's just not how you want to live. So I was like,
Mm-hmm.
this gives me independence and freedom. Like
Wow.
I'm going to go for it. And then So that was in 2019. And then I had my right leg amputated above the knee.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had another surgery in 2022 called osseointegration, where
Mm-hmm.
I needed to have a revision on my amputation.
Mm-hmm.
And I got a rod installed in my femur, and it has a little abutment piece that hooks onto the prosthetic, and basically it eliminates a socket and a lot of extra layers of heat and discomfort and blistering. You kind of your center of balance is a little off when you have like
Okay.
a traditional subischial socket. It almost feels like you're sitting on a saddle, and that's why you see
Mm.
some amputees, they do wide leg swings.
Oh, wow.
But this is, it's supposed to be better on your body in the long run because
Okay.
it's all aligned. You have your ankles and your knees and your hips, and you have that stability, and you also have weight bearing on the bone, which is good
Okay.
because I've had some setbacks because my bone was so brittle from all of my
Mm.
treatment, but also from not having any impact on the bone. And as you know, especially as
Mm-hmm.
women, as we age, we're at big risk for osteoporosis. And so I've had some loss in my bone density. And so
Mm-hmm.
we're hoping that, with some weight bearing on this leg, that I will build up some of my bone density and, be at less risk for fractures in the future.
Yes.
So
Good. Wow, Jen,
it's kind of a
that
lot of
is
it.
incredible. I think what I've been drawn to is just your positivity around all of this devastating,
Yeah,
situation.
right,
The loss of your career for quite a while, the
right,
inability to, do all the things that you love to do, and
right,
but the way that you have like, what, it is what it is, and I want to make the
right.
best of it, and this is the way I'm doing it, and I just love that. So tell me what your life looks like now.
So now I'm in a rehabilitative process again from this last surgery and some minor setbacks, minor, major, I don't know. In school, we learned that femur fractures are major. For me, in comparison, like I kind of shift my pain scale and what's major, what's minor.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have any tumors or anything spreading. And so
Yeah.
to me, I'm like, okay, I can deal with a fractured bone. So I'm in a wheelchair right now. But I do wear my leg for about 2 hours a day. And
Mm-hmm.
I've been starting to walk and do some weight bearing with physical therapy between parallel bars. I also use regular crutches, and then I have forearm crutches, which are a little harder, but I've started using those again. And so I'm heading in the right direction. Like I'm not uphill. I'm like almost to the top of the hill.
Wow.
I was just released to swim, and I did go back to work in a totally different field of nursing, because one thing I knew was I worked so hard. I was in my mid 30s when I went to nursing school, as
Mm-hmm.
you know, and I was not going to lose everything I had worked so hard. It's like nursing school is the best and the worst. And I'm like, I did not go through that for nothing
Yeah.
to end my
Yeah.
career after less than a year. So
Yeah.
so I wasn't sure what I was going to do, but I knew nursing is like so versatile, that I would need to keep up um, my license. So
Mm-hmm.
I did some CEUs, and they were online, and I loved it. I was so engaged, even in like the most boring. I think I took a microbiology
Oh,
and
wow.
epidemiology course, which is so
Yeah.
funny because it was
Yeah.
pre-COVID. But I really geeked out on it and enjoyed every second of it because my brain was kind of missing out.
Mm-hmm.
And I had been reading a lot, but nothing, you know, I learned, so I felt like I learned a lot about different avenues of
Mm-hmm.
nursing while I was going through treatment. So
Yeah.
I've had treatment at Alta Bates, and I had treatment at Stanford in addition to Sutter. And so I took that opportunity to kind of network and say, hey, do you like your job? Oh,
Yeah.
what are your roles besides, port access or whatever they were doing?
Yeah.
Oh, or, just ask a lot of questions. And I was noticing that in the clinics, because for oncology treatment especially, they have like they have oncology derm, and they have radiation oncology, and they have, oh, I think you should see this rheumatology, but she deals with oncology patients. And so everything is like fragmented in ambulatory care
Yeah.
centers. And so I went to a lot of those in the Bay Area, and more I was noticing they have RNs, and
Mm,
experienced much with RNs, in an ambulatory care setting. Like I knew there were advice nurses at the pediatrician's office. Um, you know, I wasn't aware that they were at my primary care doctor because my doctor manages his inbox. But
yeah.
so he mentioned to me one day when I was saying, yeah, I met this radiation oncology nurse, and this is what she does. And she was really nice and she liked it. She was like, oh, when you're done, you should think about something like this if you move closer. And we're obviously not moving to the Bay Area, but I thought, wow, it would be really nice if there was something within Sutter. And
Mm-hmm.
he actually set up a meeting, the next time I was in. It was a little bit of a surprise. I wasn't ready. I was like in my sweatpants, but he's like, I have my RN and she's wonderful and she has experience. She was a nurse manager before she was my nurse, and she's
Mm-hmm.
wonderful. And she set aside some time to kind of like be open to mentorship or, just talking to you. So she's
Wow.
the one who kind of, led me to what I'm doing now. And I wouldn't have even probably looked at the position that I initially started 9 months after my first amputation,
Mm-hmm.
which was in Auburn. It was a per diem job. And I mostly did pediatrics, but I did some adults and even worked in, urology briefly, and, helped out with some,
Yeah.
new programs. And it was really interesting because it was a per diem. And
Mm-hmm.
I really had no interest in working per diem because I wanted a benefited position. It's what works for our large family. And but it was wonderful. The people were
Oh, wow.
wonderful. The work is fulfilling because there's more of an education piece. I worked in med surge before, and so it was very, it's bedside nursing. I worked night
Yeah.
shift. It was hands on, and it's very
Mm-hmm.
physical, obviously. So I knew that was something that I couldn't do. I had been looking at and working at an allergist office. I knew they had nurses, even though
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I don't know if I want to, you know, do that, but it's a possibility. And nothing really, really grabbed my interest like
Mm-hmm.
pediatrics. And it's kind of I have 4 kids. And so and I love kids. And I understand parents because all of my children are so different that it's like I've been through a lot, with
Yeah.
them, and I can also recognize emergencies, even though I haven't been an emergency nurse or a peds nurse, but I just, uh, from life experience. So yeah, it's been an interesting, path, but I love my job. And I can do it in my wheelchair. I can do it with my leg on.
That is
Um,
amazing.
yeah, I mean, I'll be happy to be out of the wheelchair,
Yeah.
but it's, accessible.
Yeah.
And it's a good opener with the patients, the kids, when I do see them.
Yes.
Get a lot of stares and a lot of
Yeah.
looking, and I totally open, and engage kids. I'll say
Mm-hmm.
hello, and if they're really staring, I'll say, oh, did you notice my leg looks different? And um because I'm a nurse and I have my badge, a lot of times the parents are a lot more comfortable sending their
Mm-hmm.
kids to me to ask questions than, like, if I was in
Yeah.
Target and they're staring at me, the parents half the time are horrified. They're like,
Yeah.
don't look. And they're like, what happened? And so it's nice because kids can ask questions freely. I did
Mm-hmm.
not have a traumatic incident. A lot of amputees, they were involved in a trauma. They may have
Mm-hmm.
lost a loved one, because of that, I know, and because of support groups that I'm in, some people do not like that attention. They don't like
Mm.
questions. It's a constant reminder.
Yeah.
There's a
It's
lot of
trauma.
healing and trauma they have to go through. For me,
Yeah.
I'm good. And I mean, yes, I had a lot of trauma that I still have to work through, but
Sure.
it's not, that doesn't trigger anything for me. I'm like, yes, I have a little leg and I also have a very cool robot leg. And do you have questions? And I love it because it sometimes when people, like in our culture, especially when something happens that is scary or that we don't really
Mm-hmm.
know a lot about, whether it's like a disfigurement, a disability, or a death, we don't know what to say and we feel uncomfortable. And so sometimes
Mm-hmm.
we do that avoidance, like, oh my gosh, I see that person, I'm not going to say anything. Or like, I really want to reach out, but I don't want to be brief, or I don't want to say the wrong thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of is teaching young kids, like, it's okay. It's okay to
Yes.
say something like, oh, it's a regular person. Oh, and it's a nurse, and nurses can have little legs and wheelchairs. Like, yes, it's um, just that more education. So,
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. And I love the fact that you are working and that you're open to talking about it. I mean, I think that it just brings that diversity of we're all different in our
right,
own ways, whether it's physical or not. But I
right,
think the fact that you're willing to talk about it and you're setting an example for so many people, it's like, hey, look, if I can do it, you can do it too. Like
right,
if you want to do this, if you want to push yourself and you want to get back into work or you want to do whatever, you can,
right.
right?
Exactly.
But it's great. Thank you.
Well, so I am a part of several Facebook support groups because I don't necessarily like to post, but if I have something
Mm-hmm.
going on and I'm like curious, like, does anybody else have this question or have they had
Mm,
this problem? I might not want that kind of attention, but I'll just do a little search and go, oh, so and so posted about this. Let's see what everyone said. I'm not getting medical advice from them, but it's just a way to go, like, yeah, other people are going through this and it's not, you know, or they have a fix for something, how does your dressing stay on,
yeah.
things like that. People share pictures and go like, oh, my wound care nurse taught me this and that. And it's like, you can learn from other people or their preferences. Or
Mm-hmm.
my wheelchair here, it's 24 pounds. And so when
Mm,
I got back to work, I was really weak. And, it's a lot of unloading and reloading.
mm-hmm.
And I don't like to use the same wheelchair at home that I do for work. But this one is so light. And I found it through somebody on my support group. But what I was going to say was, I have noticed there's a couple times where people have mentioned like they're trying to get disability because they're an
Mm,
amputee now and they can't
mm-hmm.
work. Well, since I've been off from my most recent surgery, I started reading some books by disabled authors. And I'm not saying this is for everybody because everybody has different starting points and
Mm-hmm.
circumstances, but a lot of people chimed in and said, hey, just because I can't remember if this person had lost their arm or their leg, but
Mm,
just because you're an amputee doesn't mean you don't have to work. Like, there
mm,
are multiple like retraining programs. I mean, this is a support group that's internationally, but there are so many things you can do. Like, I work with Sutter with a disability coordinator,
mm-hmm.
and they kind of helped me find a job. And I kind of eased into work when I returned
Yeah.
to work for my medical leave, so that I wasn't like, here, first day back, I'm going
Right.
full time. I don't work full time, but my full position. And it was really nice because sometimes you are scared because you don't know how your body's
Sure.
going to react. How
Yeah.
are you going to be mentally? Like, is it going to be too much? Because chronic illness and sometimes waking up from sleep because you have pain, or
Mm-hmm.
my sometimes my nerves fire differently.
Yeah.
And so I get better sleep on some nights than I do others. And that was a way I could start to work. And I could have just easily said, you know what, I qualify for disability now. I'm just gonna collect and stay home because I can't do this. And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
like, I have some good years left in me. I mean, it's I just find that continuing my education and my role as a nurse is going to be the best for me, not only physically, because it makes me get up, do my
Yep.
ADLs, get ready, put my clothes on, leave the house, all of that, which is exhausting, especially at first, but it's also good for me mentally
Yes.
to give a
Yes.
little instead of just being that patient and, I
Wow.
can't do this, I can't do that. It's like, nope, watch out, I can try it.
I love it. This is so awesome. Well, is there anything else that you want to share? I really appreciate you so much for the story.
um I just have like two book recommendations that
Mm-hmm.
I would like you to share. So if I email
Great.
them to you, can you share them? Because I
Yeah.
just I
And
love books.
what about these particular books jumped out at you as wanting to make sure they get shared?
So just number one is the representation, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just having that representation with disabled characters, and
Mm,
it's a good reminder. One of the books that I read, and I have a horrible memory for names, but basically this guy has he has AMS. And so he's in a wheelchair. He doesn't speak well,
mm-hmm.
but it's a fiction, but he really does have this disease, and he's a novelist.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so interesting because his interactions with people and how he almost goes unnoticed in his like
Mm,
familiar area is amazing, because you think about um, if you see a disabled person and they're in a wheelchair and you don't know, is there like a cognitive deficit? Is it just
mm-hmm.
physical? Like how you might choose to not interact with somebody because
Sure.
you're not sure how to or how they will respond. And I just like that. And it just made me kind of reframe my thinking, even though
Mm-hmm.
I'm disabled, clearly, it's physical, but it's like, wow, have I done that before? And I like books that make you think
Yes.
and reframe your thinking. Like maybe I need to reassess how I'm doing things, right? In nursing, we're going to assess and then we're going to try things, interventions. And if they don't work, what are we going to do? We're going to reassess, right?
Right.
It's the same idea with our behavior in the world. Like, are we doing something that we could do better? So, and then there's another book, there's a couple books by amputee authors that I like, and it's kind of their
Awesome.
their stories as well, just because I just thought they were inspiring. But yeah,
Well, you are inspiring, my friend. I am
thank you.
just blown away by your journey, and any one of us, in your situation may have done this very differently and be struggling, and perhaps somebody listening and on this today is really struggling on their own personal journey, whether it's
Right.
similar like you with an amputee or something else going on. And so I appreciate your time and your energy and your beauty and just your sharing your journey with me, and then whoever
Yeah.
else catches this too. You're incredible. It's really amazing to
Yeah.
have watched you these last few years.
So I forgot one other thing. You just
Yeah,
reminded me. So
good.
about struggles, like I am a generally optimistic person, but I think dark humor and really inappropriate coping like jokes, like I've used those, like when you get people that say what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Well, I have like a million comebacks that are super inappropriate for those, so that has helped me a lot. I mean,
Yeah.
that's also like funny, dark humor was a good coping mechanism when I was
Hmm.
in nursing school too, just with
Yeah.
a small group of friends, but also I do have really dark times and dark moments. And
Hmm.
like I was telling you before, I started journaling again. And
Hmm.
sometimes I just talk to somebody who is like a friend, but not like my spouse or my
Hmm.
sibling, because you don't want to burden people. And
Sure.
that is normal. I don't show that side of me very often, but I've talked to my providers before. I see a therapist. I've done group therapy, and I feel like I'm an advocate for that. Um, Going through a medical experience, like an oncology treatment or multiple surgeries, it's depressing. I mean,
Yeah.
I've never been clinically depressed, but I've definitely dealt with depression, because
Right.
laying in a bed being in pain is depressing.
Yeah.
I mean, it just is. And so just having an outlet, whatever, is helpful. Um, I'm like a huge advocate for therapy. There was a time when I couldn't go to therapy because I was too sick. All of
Hmm.
my appointments were like finding people to give me rides to chemo and whatnot. But if you are going through, or if you know somebody that's going through that, like an oncology nurse navigator or a therapist or a Zoom therapist or anything that somebody offers you, like massage or acupuncture, I would say take it,
Take it. Okay.
because those things are really, really helpful for your body and your mind.
Absolutely.
So I forgot about that
Absolutely. That's
piece.
perfect. No, I really appreciate that because I think it is sometimes when you're on the outside looking in, like, wow, she's done great. She must just be a sunny personality, but
Right,
like you've worked so hard to find what works for you
right,
and what you know what you aspire to do and what you're working hard towards is because that's your path and that's what works for you. And it might not work for
right,
somebody else, but to just be open to that help,
right.
I think is important message.
Yeah. So thank you
All
so
right,
much, Jen.
Jen. Thank you so much.
Have a good day.